start off with that today.
Yeah. So when I first started writing the poem that is part 4, it was back in 2019 when there was massive fires in the Amazon. And as I was already kind of committed to fire being this kind of healing kind of force for the play, it was this thing I was trying to kind of reconcile as well, that like the destruction and that duality of fire. And so it really, for me, was like the backdrop of writing that whole piece, but also I think captures that how dangerous and destructive fire can be, as was happening in the Amazon, destroying entire ecosystems, but also how cleansing and potentially necessary it can be when that fire was burning Central Park, and both of these things happening at the same time. That was just something I was really excited to explore. And there's something for me also just image-wise, knowing how much expanse the Amazon rainforest is, that imagining it on fire just to me is like the biggest fire that I can imagine, that also feels like that's actually happening. And when if you see photos or videos out of the Amazon as it's on fire, it's pretty terrifying to behold. And if you hear the sound of what that sounds like as well, like it really, yeah, I don't know, it sounds like the end of the world. And so that was something that I wanted, as 12 was trying to destroy the world that has hurt her and that she's got all trapped inside. That just felt like the image that helped me to continue to write the poem.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
So as someone who doesn't have the gift that you have for being a storyteller, how does this sort of bubble up the idea for this story? Where does it come from for you? How do you get birth to it?
This, usually like, honestly, like, I was telling my wife the other day, like, went for a walk yesterday morning, I was like, I came back with a play. There's usually just like a central little image or set of constraints that are exciting to me. And I usually don't try to come up with the ideas for my plays, I then have to work with them, but that initial idea is usually something that happens if I'm on a train or on a bus or walking, usually in movement. And however, though, for this play, I remember when I first started writing it, I was struggling with some things personally, and like this impulse to run and run away is something that I feel like I've struggled with my whole life. And I was unable to do so at the time. I was in a new place. I just moved to Brooklyn. I was sitting in my apartment looking out at Eastern Parkway, which is where 12 runs for the majority of her time when she's through Brooklyn. And just this image of this 12-year-old girl, I was teaching 7th graders at the time in Brooklyn, so their stories were something that's with me, but this image of this 12-year-old girl running down Eastern Parkway with her dog, and the ghost is Nat Turner, is just something that kind of came to me as I looked out the window. And that's where the whole place started, and then later on, part 1 got added, and it grew and built from there. But it really all started with that image that you see at the top of part 2, which is this 12-year-old girl, the ghost of this historical figure, and the dog just running through Brooklyn, and that's the image that started it all for me.
Thanks. Yes.
Hi, thanks for your work. This was really fascinating. When I saw the title, I don't know if I'm alone in this, but I was expecting some sort of tragedy or some hurt that's maybe more generally applicable to Black girls. And I really like the fact that you weren't explicit about what happened to her. Can you talk a little bit about the generalizability of whatever it was?
Yeah.
Because it seemed very personal to her, and it seemed like it also could have happened to any young person.
Yeah. So that really came from a few places. One of the things that, at first I wasn't sure why 12 was running. I then had an experience with some of my students. Like I said, I was teaching 7th grade, and I was teaching English at the time, and we were doing House on Mango Street. And there is one of the vignettes, I think it's called Family of Little Feet, and it describes the experience of these girls who are about 12's age experiencing the attention from grown men for the first time. And that's the story. And when I first read it, it just struck me as like, okay, I'm about to do this with my 7th grade girls. And so I had the instinct to do it fishbowl style, which is asking half the class to actually have a conversation about the story and the other class to listen, half the class to listen. And I had my female students sit in the center and be able to discuss this story with each other. And I didn't hear details from their stories, but what became clear is that there was this common experience, and it looked a little different from all of them. But what was true about all of their experiences is that they had innocence taken from them when they were not ready to give it up, and then they had to own it, and they had to figure out how to make this now theirs. And so the fact that I heard this story come from so many of my students at the same time was part of the reason I wanted it to be general. The other thing is that I think too often plays about trauma are traumatizing to experience, and I really didn't want that to be this. And so to me it felt counterintuitive to have this story be about what happened to her. And I really want it to be about how she handled it, how she dealt with it after, because no matter what trauma we all go through, we all are then have to face that moment afterwards, which is, okay, what do I do now? And how do I somehow reclaim this thing that I did not ask to happen to me and make this a part of my story in a way that gives me strength and that I can continue to move on with. So that was why I wanted to keep it general. Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you for the work and for directing it. As a New Yorker, how did you pick Central Park?
Yeah. Central Park has a really complex and dark history that a lot of people don't know about. We often forget how much slavery existed in the North. We kind of have rewritten history and allow ourselves to be like, it was the South, they were doing all that down there, and we in the North. And I know growing up in New England like that, we told these stories to ourselves of like, we've never been that. And I had to learn the real history. I only learned it once I was an adult. And I actually got the chance to take that same group of students to an exhibit in New York that is about the real history of Central Park. And there's a lot of darkness and ugliness that happened there. And so when I thought about here in New York, as this girl is trying to cleanse herself, what might be the thing that could represent all of the ugliness that is her world, Central Park was that.
There's a relationship between Central Park and the Creek area in Boulder.
I did not know
Say
that.
more.
I did not know that.
It's the same architect.
Oh.
Interesting.
Wow.
I'm pretty sure that's it.
It's the same architect, yeah.
Okay.
Homestead, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Learn something new
That's-
every
that's-
day.
Throw it in the dramaturgy back.
Wow. Okay. I will definitely be reading up on that. Kori, talk a little bit about the significance of the Dorothy line at the end.
Yeah. When I first started writing this story, I didn't know exactly what I was doing with it. It really just started with that image. But once I met Allie Firewoman for myself, and I realized that this story was going to be one that was playing with the same ideas of maybe an Alice in Wonderland or a Wizard of Oz, of a young girl who has to go on a journey and meet all these wacky people, and maybe the story's not actually, maybe it's all in her head, like maybe she doesn't actually encounter all this magic, but maybe she does, and that being a question mark was something that I was really excited to explore my own version of that. And so there's very subtle hints to it throughout. Like she spends a lot of time thinking with Nat at the beginning, and so when you think about like Scarecrow and the brain, and then in part 2 with Allie Firewoman, it's all about what she's feeling and like that. And so again, like her finding her heart And then in part 4, it's really about that confrontation, and her Rottweiler is her courage until the very end. And so I decided, I wanted to, and the Dorothy line, I wasn't certain that I wanted to make that connection explicit for the audience, or if it was just going to be something for me. But Jahalia actually said something on the first day of rehearsal. She was like, "Wizard of Oz." I was like, "Yeah, let's throw it in there." And so it was not in there when we started rehearsals, but it found its way in just to kind of tie a bow on something that I was working on.
Yes.
Actually, yes, hand up first.
It's okay. He was here Friday. Let's go.
I'm not a religious person, but I found the last song, about Satan, pretty powerful. And I was wondering what your imagery was. What's your symbolism with that? To me, I don't think a lot about Satan or heaven or hell, but it really, I felt it. And I was wondering, trying to convey it.
Yeah.
It was hard to hear.
My question is, why did he pick the song about Satan at the end, and what was he trying to convey? Because for somebody who's not religious, I really felt something there.
Yeah, I think one, I grew up with gospel music as just kind of part of the fabric of my life, and so it is something that I return to often when I am writing, because it's able to unlock things in me that nothing else can. And so when I think of sources of strength, that is usually when I am like at my lowest, it has to be gospel music. And I really was excited about playing with the idea of like holy destruction, right? Like some things ought to burn. And that song really captured that idea for me. And so it's the other songs have changed over time. The very final song was actually a suggestion from our music director, like in rehearsals once we got started, and so that changed. That's not the song that was in the script when we started rehearsals. But Satan, We're Gonna Tear Your Kingdom Down has been there from the very beginning, and it just was one of kind of those central ingredients to this play for me.
All right. There was somebody else. Yeah.
The title was very provocative. It's probably 90% of why I came. How did you come up with the title? At what part of the process? Did you have a working title when you first started writing? Yeah. Could you just talk me through the title?
100%. Yeah. Sorry, we got a similar question on Friday. So this was not the title I started with. Like I said, I often start with like a play in mind, and like I know where it's going to go, and I like write a play. This play did not start with this. This play really started with an image in my mind, and so the working title at first was I need to go find it, but it was something like Rottweiler, or Dog and Nat Turner and 12-year-old black girl on fire, right? And actually, just commas in there, like that was the actual title. And then when I got a better sense of what I was doing with the piece and what I was trying to communicate with the piece, I really want this story to be one that asks the audience to work with what 12 is being asked to do, work with at the same time, which is some things that you have to confront and you have to burn down. And so I like to think of this piece, because I didn't want to be incredibly explicit around any type of like commentary that I'm making, right? Like I think it is embedded within it. The one place that I get to feel like I have like my voice, like I feel like I get one line in the play, and it's the title. And it felt like I just wanted that to be a part of what everybody's experience was. So I'm glad I got you here. It was, I wanted it to feel a little bit like, okay, let's see what this case is. And then also for it to be a little bit surprising when it is not laid out like a legal case, but a story with some realizations along the way.
Nice. John.
Well, no, that's-
Okay, great.
So I would like to, in conjunction with the young lady was saying on the other side in the very beginning, I appreciate the way that this was really laid out and expressed, and not like gut punch, so to speak, but it was awakening and healing and validating in some ways for me. I really, really appreciate it, especially because I love fire. It is one of the cheapest therapists I've ever had in my life. I live in the Northeast. It's cold. I get outside at least 5 nights in my backyard with a fire. I just feel like I can purge and burn that way. And there was something I noticed tonight or today that I didn't last night, and it was a release of a chain around my neck. And that was just lightning. Like, no, this is what so many of us really need to do, and regardless to the age, the gender, no matter what, we all sometimes, I think, feel like we need permission. We need validation to say, no, you really can hurt and heal from that hurt. And it's okay to baby yourself and pamper yourself and run your ass away from whatever is ailing you. But yet, know that it's still within and you have to deal with it. You have to. And so I appreciate you. Thank you.
Well, I'm very, very moved. Again, even more so today, actually. Well, I don't know, but I feel like I understand what's going on a lot more today. So my question, playwright to playwright here, is, the play exists in performance. The play is not the actors, the play is not the script, it's not the audience, it is this emotional life which is here, as we know. So the question I have for you, Kori, is what did you feel, or did you take away, or how did you react to what was going on in the performance today?
Yeah, really great question.
Stop it.
Really great. I like really want to wonder what the actors would say too. The humor of this piece really came through in a exciting way today, and I don't feel like that was like what was necessarily dry, but like there was something about like almost like the levity, the light moments of this piece that really like got us from moment to moment. So that was exciting to experience. Like this is
belly rub.
It was exciting. It's always, I feel like I get to know, the more audiences that I get to experience the play, the more I understand what the play is, because it is something different to every person who experiences it. And for this audience today, I think it was funnier than it was for the audience last night, and that's really fun and a really great reminder that there's only so much that we can do, and what it's going to be every day, it's going to be, and that's the magic of what we do here.
Cool.
Any questions over here? Or just want to check because y'all haven't had a chance as much. So, okay, great.
I want to talk about the Rottweiler.
Let's talk about the Rottweiler.
It was such a special relationship, and it kept kind of changing and coursing like as her journey went on. But that monologue was so special, and I just wanted to hear more about that and kind of like why the dog needed to have a monologue at that point to help tie things back to her.
Yeah, I think Betty and Mickey have done a really good job of building this throughout the piece, but Rottweiler knows where 12 is going, right? Like she knows where 12 needs to get to be able to get through what happened to her. And so she tries at first, just like run, and then she'll point her in the direction, and she starts to get a little bit more frustrated over time. It's like, come on, like, girl, you're continuing to run from this. You don't understand what I'm trying to get you to do. And as 12 needs to confront what happened to her, Rottweiler recognizes at a certain point that she has to step in and say to 12 what 12 cannot say to herself yet, or say out loud yet. And I think the other thing is that I really wanted that part to be, I wanted it to feel like fire. And that there has been like this steady like run, and how fires will kind of like, they start slow, and then the next thing you know, it like, and that's what I really wanted to try to create, was like, we don't hear anything from this dog much, and other than run, the little crackles, and eventually it catches fire, and that's what I was trying to convey there.
Do you want to talk about your experience with the Rottweiler?
Well, she was over here on our side, and we were sitting over here, so we got a lot of the mom.
Yeah.
And it was a special, I don't know, it felt like a special character that had, like was weaving it together. So for me, it helped bring some of those pieces together that I was like trying to figure a few things out, and at that point it was like,
she knows everything, right? And so the things that 12 also knows and is trying to avoid, the Rottweiler knows, and so fills in those blanks for us. And 12 is like, what do you mean last night? I'm not running for other reasons. Yeah. Dogs always know. Yes.
Do they? Yes.
Yeah, I just really appreciated how I caught it at least twice, maybe it was 3 times, where it was like, don't talk down to a 12-year-old.
Yes.
I know one of my big pet peeves is when people say something about the real world, because the real world is, your baby over there is in the real world. Like, we're all in our own real world.
Yes.
And I really appreciated, like, don't do that.
Yeah.
Nice. Sage.
I was wondering, like, if there was a significance to the breed of dog that you chose, or like why you decided to be a dog.
Why a Rottweiler?
That it's like strictly personal. I grew up with Rottweilers, and there's also something I love. People who haven't encountered Rottweilers, don't know like a dog that is a Rottweiler. They look scary, but like when you get to know them, and they're like such babies, and that is like part of what I think 12 is kind of trying to convey, and like it's like that's a little bit of 12's attitude. Is like, no, I'm tough, don't mess with me. But underneath it all, she's like really gentle and sensitive and soft, and like and so so the Rottweiler works for that imagery, but also I grew up with Rottweilers, and those relationships for me as a kid, when I felt really misunderstood. Your dog is like, I don't know, there's something I think special about the relationship between kids and dogs, especially kids when they feel alone.
Okay. Wow.
This is great.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So if you need to leave because I told you it'd be free, feel free. I still want to honor these final 3 questions. So we're going to come over here first.
Yeah, thank you. This was a beautiful story. And the element of sound, I mean, it was throughout. I would say it's its own character.
Yeah.
So can you speak to that? Your vision of sound and how it's enriched and light of the story.
Yeah, I like to say like I hear my plays, I don't necessarily see them. There's imagery attached to it, but I know the rhythm of a piece. Like I know the heartbeat of a piece, and so that idea of footsteps was something, and that sound is really like the foundation of all of the sound of this piece. So that was a big part of it, but I think also, I think that there is magic in music, And so, I mean, I build music into everything that I do because I can't imagine my world without it. And it is to me like a way to access the past in a magical way. It is a way to get access to our ancestors in ways that I think are hard to do otherwise. And so without the music in the piece, I don't know that the magic of the piece could happen. I think that's where the magic comes from in it, is the magic of music itself. And that question that Nat asked, where do you think it comes from then? Music is a question that I've had my whole life, right? Because in theory, every combination of notes are out there, and every melody is out there, and yet we're still discovering new ones. And how is it there's this infinite amount of music that we are still discovering in real time? That is God, that is magic to me. And so bringing music and honoring what I think the magic of music also gives me permission to take this play in different directions. Yeah.
And I'm going to tag on because we had an incredible sound designer,
Yes.
Alex Billman. And so we had a projections person, right? We had lights, we had sounds, we had costumes, and so each part gets to have conversations with us and read the play and also help us to tell the story. And Alex Billman is incredible. The soundscape that you heard in the beginning where you're just hearing the sounds of New York, the pre-show music was all specifically from gospel groups in New York during a certain time. He thinks orally, and he wanted to be able to help audiences go on a journey. And so we'd say something like, something happens when the dog speaks.
Yeah.
And then he's like, here, right? And so he just helped to elevate and amplify this piece by thinking of it purely from a sonic perspective, which allows scenic to design and then lights to, and then, so every single one of our design team are just brilliant artists, and they are incredible co-collaborators, which allowed you to experience what you experienced. Yeah. All right, we have two more. One is over here. Yes.
I'm just curious that, given that you're a dad, are you sharing stories? Are you sharing this story? Are you sharing others? Are you writing for your daughter, for things you want to share with her?
Yeah. So that's hard. She slept through it today. What's pretty special about this play as it relates to her is that I was 2 years ago when I was out here to workshop it for the first time. My wife was still pregnant, and we didn't know if we were going to have a boy or a girl, and she found out while I was out here. And so this play is dedicated to my daughter. But at the beginning, I didn't know I was going to have a daughter. And the minute that my wife called and told me that that was going to be the case, it changed what the story even was for me, and what it meant to tell this story. And I take being a girl dad very, very seriously. And so it almost added a level of pressure, but like good pressure, the type of pressure that all parents have, to like get it right and help her to become the young woman she deserves to be, unafraid and willing to burn shit down if it needs to. And so yeah, that's part of it. But yeah, I do write for her in a lot of ways.
Yes. And then last question was over here.
Over here.
Okay, great. Yes.
Oh, okay.
I'm so sorry. That's you.
Thank you. Well, I just want to say first, thanks for your work. I just really appreciate being here. I'll preface my question by saying that I moved to Colorado in my early 20s from very rural, very fundamentalist North Carolina. Very segregated, I think it's as racist now, but it's kind of worse because it's underground. But being here today gave me some more clarity around what I was running from and what I'm running to. And I'm glad to be here. So thanks for that clarity. So the question, this image of building bricks that was layered kept coming up and with the roots, and I was just curious if there was some, if that metaphor had a foundation or had a resource or had a source view. Like, did that come from some place? Because I kept having imagery about it. So.
Yeah. So there's two pieces there's two parts that go into that.
Cool.
The first is to me that there's something kind of magical about the image of like burning something down and then building something up from exactly that. And so like imagine like you're making clay out of the ash. And so like just that imagery for what it means to, how do you rebuild once it's all been burnt down, right? And that's part of what 12 has to realize, is that like she understands, okay, I've got to burn it all down, and then there's like, okay, but now what?
Right.
And so the idea of a home and building a home, as she asks for a new home and then realizes that she's got to build that herself.
Right.
But the other piece is that part of the poem, that monologue, connects this play to the 4 other plays that are in this collection. So there's 5 plays in this collection, each of them kind of modeled around one of the 5 classical elements. And so there's, and so in that play, in that poem, you'll hear the idea of like from the clay, so building from earth and leave space for the air, and you've added water to the clay to help you rebuild, and this idea of trying to find some type of ethereal peace and finding what is the ether of this place. And so those are the 2 reasons that monologue, or how that monologue kind of came to be, was both it felt like kind of this, one of the central images, which is like your body feeling like not feeling home, and what does it mean to actually get your home back, and what do you have to do that, and how long is it going to take? And that's the other piece, right? Like, just because 12 is able to now say this thing out loud, like she's just made the first brick. Like that's what we get to see tonight, is her making that first brick. But we know she's gonna keep building this house for a long, long time. But also to have little hints to the other plays that follow it.
Thank you. I love that.
Thank you all so much for being here. We are so grateful that our belief that people still want to hear new stories is true. And so we would really appreciate it if you would tell 1 or 25,000 friends about this play and about the power of it. Don't give stuff away, but give them enough to come in, because we want people to continue to go on this journey. We run through October 25th, Thursdays through Sundays every week, and then the final week it will be 2 shows on that Saturday. So nothing on the 26th, it'll be 2 shows on that Saturday. Thank you so much for believing in theater. Thank you so much for believing in humanity. And since they happen to be in the room, for the 5 actors, give it up for not only Kori Alston,